Story number 1. John dissolved his marriage and successfully gained custody of Michael, his son, through the court process. Laura packed her belongings and said goodbye to her 15-year-old son with a tearful promise. "I will visit you, my dear son." About a month later, John introduced his son to a young woman named Jenny, declaring her his wife. The boy took one look at the unfamiliar face and hurriedly retreated up the stairs to his room. Stunned, he collapsed on his bed, burying his face in his pillow. Although Michael refrained from crying, his eyes filled with sadness. Although he longed to be with his mother, his father was adamant that his home was with him. On September 1st, Michael's chauffeur, Alex, drove him to school. On the way back, they stopped in front of the building where Michael's mother worked as a translator. Laura got out of the car and joined her son, saying, "I miss you, my son, but we have no other option. I live in a small apartment now, and your father provides well for you. Thank you, Alex, for understanding." Michael had long harbored a deep contempt for his stepmother. Despite her attempts to win his favor, he preferred to seclude himself in his room. Over time, the boy came to the realization that the reason for the breakup of parents was Jenny, and put all the responsibility on her. As a consequence, a strong resentment against his father's new wife was born in Michael's heart. As time went on, 6 long years to be exact, Jenny behaved extremely modestly. She refrained from leaving the house in the absence of her husband and limited communication with friends to telephone conversations. Outwardly, she was a model wife, but her eyes often betrayed her true feelings for Michael. During this time, the boy matured and began to resemble his handsome father outwardly. However, their characters were very different. John had a harsh and unkind character, while Michael radiated softness and restraint, like his mother. Nevertheless, in facial features and physique, he strikingly resembled his father. That evening, Michael was going up the stairs, and Jenny was coming down. Suddenly, she tripped and almost fell. Michael picked her up in his arms. "Thank you, son, or the worst would have happened." "I think I twisted my leg. It hurts a lot." The guy understood everything, and together with her went to her bedroom. Having rendered first aid, Michael wanted to leave, but Jenny detained him. "Sit with me. I live at my father's house like a recluse. He only takes me with him to events. I realized a long time ago that I married for this." From that day on, Jenny and Michael became friends. In the evenings, they began to socialize. She would talk about herself. She was born in England. Her mother abandoned her as a child and left her for a man. She was brought up by her grandparents. She finished school with her maternal sister in London. She couldn't go to college. There was no money to pay the tuition fees. Her aunt's husband began to look at Jenny with interest. The girl realized that they need to escape, and together with a classmate came to Los Angeles. Jenny was taken to work in a fashion house as a fashion model, but the figure and appearance of her friend did not fit. She rented a room. Admirers appeared, but she did not trust anyone. She fell in love with Michael's father. When he asked me to marry him, I said yes. That's how I came to your house, Michael. As the years passed, Michael went to law school. That's what his father told him to do, and his son never argued with him. He will provide legal services in his firm if he understands something, but he will try to gain knowledge to the best of his ability and intelligence. In the winter, John flew to Montana for his father's funeral. Michael also wanted to see his grandfather off, but before that, he caught a cold. His health is already normalized, but his father did not allow him to go. "You're still weak. You'd better stay warm at home." And John left. The boy loved his grandfather who lived with them. That's why he took his death hard. Jenny wanted to comfort the boy and came to his room at night. She lay down next to him, and Michael covered her with a blanket. The boy himself did not understand how it happened, but did not stop. Jenny was increasingly taking the initiative first, and Michael was obeying. "So what now, Jenny?" Michael became concerned. "We won't tell your father." Stepmother would have reassured me if this was just a one-off. But it wasn't. Jenny had her moments, and Michael couldn't say no. Yeah, he loved it. Michael, and I'm carrying your baby, said the stepmother, stroking her belly. Why my baby? You're sleeping with your father. The guy didn't want this. He doesn't want kids with me. He's on the pill himself, and he doesn't trust me. He only has one heir, and that's you. So you're even upset about it, Michael. You're not going to tell him, are you? No. I'll be 35 soon, and then it'll be too late. He might like someone else, and he'll do what he did to your mom. I'd have to start all over again, casting and all that, and time goes on, and I'm getting old. Whatever, but don't leave me. I love you. And Michael snuggled up to Jenny. No, my boy, I love you too, replied the stepmother. Jenny told her husband about the pregnancy only when it was impossible to get rid of it. Jenny, you're not wrong, are you? He pulled a medicine out of the nightstand. 100% guaranteed. So it's a setup too. Well, have the baby. Jenny had a boy. John was indifferent, but Michael was thrilled. He wanted to tell his father it was his baby, but he didn't dare. The baby was growing up. He was now a year old and beginning to walk. Standing next to Jenny, Michael warned her that her father was figuring something out, and once again, you're not getting it. Dad's gonna figure it out sooner or later. I need to find another girl and move in with her, shouted Michael. There's one well-to-do with an apartment. She really likes me, and I realize there's no stopping you. My father knows. I'll let you know someday. Don't be in such a hurry to move. You love me, don't you? That's the point. Otherwise, I'd have run away a long time ago. Jenny didn't get to tell John she was pregnant. He died in an accident. You set the whole thing up. Michael couldn't believe it was an accident. I'm not as conniving as you think. We'll bury him with honors. And Jenny cried. For John's farewell, his sisters flew in with their husbands. They cheered Michael up, but he cannot bring his father back. He would seek the truth. He couldn't believe it, but he didn't want to implicate Jenny. He hired a detective and promised a good reward. The investigation was underway, but there was no result. John's car was hit by a drunk driver in the oncoming lane, and they both died. Both cars had good brakes, but that didn't help. No calls were made from Jenny's cell phone to unknown numbers. The driver listed all the places he took Jenny to, but it's a health clinic and a children's store. Checked the security cameras at those locations. She didn't talk to anyone. That was the end of the investigation. Michael settled down and accepted his father's inheritance. Jenny relinquished her half in favor of Michael. I don't understand anything about business, and it's easier for you to rule it yourself. I'll devote myself to the children. I'll never believe you'd trade me for a young one. I won't. I love you so much. Michael embraced his future wife. Before the birth of their daughter, Jenny and Michael were married, and the son now bore his father's last name instead of John's. Story number 2. I had to go back to my father's house. He's been living with a woman he brought in 5 years after he left my mother. Why didn't I move in with my mother? Well, she moved back to her hometown, which is a few hundred kilometers away, which is quite a distance for me. I couldn't call her out loud my stepmother, considering she's only 7 years older than me. She may not be the most attractive and a bit overweight, but she's still a pretty girl. So, let me tell you how it all started. We celebrated my arrival, had a great time, and then went to our rooms. I have to thank the frugal builders of the past for the cardboard walls that you can hear everything through. There was no way I could sleep that night, and about an hour after bedtime, I took off my headphones and heard my dad talking to my stepmom in my room. She was talking so loud that it was hard to hear my dad. It turned out that the father was having male health issues. This information didn't seem important to me at the time, But after a week, it helped me understand the strange behavior of Nicole, my stepmother. It used to be that when I would visit them for a couple days or even a month because I couldn't find an apartment, that I would live apart. I didn't have that kind of behavior. And now, then in the toilet does not close. Then in a light t-shirt walks around the kitchen, through which you can see large breasts. It gets worse. While her father's at work, she goes out at night with someone. She changes her clothes when the door is open and does exercises, jumping so that her breasts pop out of her shirt. One day, I heard a loud crackling noise coming from the next room. "Gary, could you help?" "Hurry up and help me," she said. A big pot fell off the windowsill, and now we have to clean up the soil from the carpet. She and I knelt down and started picking it up. It's pretty hard work, as evidenced by the sweat on Nicole's back in her tight t-shirt. "I'm going to go freshen up, and you should take a break too," she said before walking away. Her laptop was on the table, and I decided to see what she was watching. To my surprise, there was an adult movie playing. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Nicole came back into the room. She walked over to me. Our eyes met, and no words were needed. It was like a hurricane. In the midst of our overwhelming emotions, we lost control of ourselves. She deliberately broke the pot so that I would come to her room. Too bad about the flower. It was a gift from my mom. As the weeks turned into months, my relationship with my stepmother, Nicole, took on a life of its own, shrouded in mystery and passion. What started as a chance meeting over a broken pot grew into a forbidden romance that consumed us both. Our secret meetings became a ritual, a dance of desire and longing that played out behind closed doors. The thrill of the forbidden, the tumultuous emotions kept us coming back to each other, hungry for more. Despite the risks and whispers of guilt that remained in the shadows, our bond grew deeper each day. Nicole's presence in my life brought a sense of elation and fulfillment I had never experienced before. It was as if we had found comfort in each other's arms, a refuge from the complexities of our shared reality. My father was pleased that I was getting on well with my stepmother. He still had no suspicion that she was cheating on him. Nicole stopped demanding intimacy at night, and he was fine with that. He wasn't young anymore, and he was very tired at work, and my other mom was fine with it. My dad paid for everything, and I gave her what my dad couldn't give her at night. So we lived like that. God only knows what will happen next.